I have decluttering regrets, things I wish I hadn't decluttered, things I wish I'd done, things I wish I hadn't done. So here are the top 5 for me in the hopes that they help you avoid the same mistakes and regrets in your decluttering journey. Let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura and I'm going to start with things I regret decluttering. I get asked a lot if I regret letting go of anything, and the answer is yes. There are 2 things in particular, so I'm going to share those, but also the lessons I learned from that so that I don't make the same mistake again. Hopefully this will stop you from getting rid of anything that you will later live to regret. The first thing that I regret decluttering is the first outfit that my daughter wore when she was in the hospital when she was first born. She was 9 pounds 10.5 ounces when she was born, so a little above average, and she was squashed into all of her newborn clothes, as you can see from this picture. We basically had to immediately donate or return all of her newborn clothes, and she was straight into her 0 to 3 month stuff. It wasn't my intention though to hang on to this outfit, but what happened was I was in hospital with her for 5 days. Labor did not go according to plan, and I will spare you all the awful details, but yes, we were in hospital for a while, so my husband was like shuttling back and forth, bringing us stuff that we needed. All of her and my initial outfits he brought home to wash, but he did not understand that you need to separate some colors, so he threw a navy nightdress that I had in with her clothes, and they all got destroyed, and her newborn outfit came out in this awful like grayish color. Now I hung on to it for a while, but every time I looked at it I was just kind of disappointed and, to be honest, a little bit annoyed. So after a while I decided I was going to have to let go of it. I figured I have photographs of her in the outfit, and this outfit is basically now ruined, so it's not like I can, display it somewhere or, have look at it and think nice thoughts. And it wasn't necessarily just that it got ruined in the wash, but after she was born I suffered from postnatal depression, so every time I looked at that outfit it just didn't bring up good feelings for me. But to be honest, nothing made me feel good at the time. My second regret, and then I will tell you kind of why I regretted both of these things, like I noticed a pattern with both of them, but the second one was a little less sentimental, but it was a pair of shoes. They were metallic wedge sandals. I had been searching for this type of shoe for a long time, eventually found them, was thrilled, used to wear them all the time, but then I wore them one day, like I wore them for an entire day. We were on holidays, it was our last day there, we did a lot of walking, and then we were flying home, so it was a lot of, walking through airports with bags and stuff, and my feet were killing me by the end of it. So I didn't wear them for a long time after that because I kept thinking, no, those shoes hurt my feet. And I eventually decluttered them. But now let me tell you what the link is between those 2 things. Essentially what I did was I decluttered things because I was feeling particularly ruthless, and I was attaching them to one particular bad incident rather than stepping back and thinking that, that item as a whole, like the whole experience, was a good one, on balance. So I let kind of one negative experience with that item taint my overall experience and my overall feelings. And that's why I always say now that if you are in a particularly ruthless mood, yes, you can still kind of go through stuff and decide what you would like to declutter, but wait until you are feeling a little bit calmer, a little bit more maybe balanced or relaxed or in a more neutral mood before you actually get that stuff out of your house. And don't let one bad memory associated with that item kind of cloud your judgment if overall the memories are good. I know the shoes are kind of a silly example, but I used to wear those shoes a lot, and it was just that one day because I'd worn them all day and we walked everywhere. I let that kind of cloud my judgment. But having said all that, the reality is my life went on. I'm still happy, I'm still thriving, I'm still living my life. There was no real massive detrimental effect. Do I wish I still had them? Like if I could click my fingers and bring them back, would I? Yes, the answer is yes. But realistically, I have moved on. Like life still does go on. But keep that in mind when you are decluttering. Don't get rid of anything when you're feeling particularly ruthless or you're just not in a good frame of mind. And also don't let one isolated incident taint your memories and your feelings towards one particular thing if overall they are good. Okay, I know that was a long one. Let's move on. The rest of them won't be as long, but that's a question I get a lot, and I really wanted to just kind of elaborate and make it very clear for you. My second regret then is not taking enough before pictures. Yes, I did take some before pictures of kind of particular items. You know, I take out all of my clothes, take a picture of a big heap of clothes, but I didn't take, I feel, enough photos of my spaces. I wish I had more photographs of, you know, entire rooms and entire wardrobes and stuff so that I could see how much progress I have actually made. When you are in the middle of decluttering, when you're going through that journey and going through that process, it can be very difficult on a day-to-day basis to see the results that you're getting. You know, you don't always notice small changes. You really only notice differences when you can kind of step back and see the before and the after. It's why I always recommend that one of the first things that people do when they start out on a decluttering journey is to go around their home and take pictures of all of the rooms and all of the spaces, and even like open cupboard doors and stuff so that you can see the insides and take photos of those. It's one of the first things I have my students in my decluttering course do, and the reason I say to go through your entire home first is because sometimes you dive into a decluttering project without really thinking. I can't tell you the number of times I've just got fed up of something and kind of pulled everything off a shelf or out of a drawer or something and just decluttered it, and then thought, oh, I should have taken a photo. So even if you're only focusing on one particular thing right now, I still recommend going through your entire home and taking pictures of everything. I wish I could show you what my room used to look like way back when I was in my early 20s, because it was not pretty at all. In fact, I would probably be mortified of showing you, but at the same time, it would be nice to see how far I have come since then. So if you're considering decluttering, I would say right now, go throughout your entire home and take photographs. But even if you're in the middle of your decluttering journey and you haven't taken that many photographs up till this point, it's not too late. Go around right now and take some in progress pictures. You will still have something to look back on that will still show you a lot of the progress that you've made. It may not be from the very beginning, but you will still make progress from the middle to the end. The reality is that decluttering isn't always fun. You know, it can be a exhausting, draining, frustrating experience. So having those photographs to look back on can really give you a boost when you feel like it's just one step forward and two steps back. Next regret is not learning the lessons. Listen, I used to just kind of get rid of things, which was great. I'd make a lot of progress, but I didn't kind of stop to consider why I was getting rid of certain things. I didn't stop to consider, you know, were there any patterns there? And eventually I would just go out and buy more stuff that I would later end up also decluttering. It's very easy to just look at something and say, yeah, I don't want that anymore. I don't love that anymore. I can get rid of that. But if you're not actually stopping and thinking, okay, why do I not like this? Like, why does this not fit into my life anymore? And actually think that process through, because that is what is going to stop you going out and making the same purchasing mistakes all over again. Like, let's say with clothes, is it the color that you don't like? Is it the fit or the shape of the thing that you don't like? What is it about that particular item? And when you actually give that some thought and you realize what it is about that particular piece of clothing, you can then stop yourself from going out and basically buying an identical thing, you know, something in the exact same color that you really don't like. So instead of just boxing and bagging things up and getting them out of your home, take a moment to think about why these items no longer serve you or why you want to get rid of them. Like, what is the reason behind that? Is it because it was an impulse purchase? Is it because it was something that you thought maybe you would have the time or energy for, and now you realize that you don't? Some of those kind of like wishful thinking items. Maybe it's because you already have multiples of that particular thing. When you notice what your purchasing patterns are, you can avoid repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Because there's no point getting rid of something if you're just going to go out and essentially buy a replacement for that item. Notice the patterns, learn the lessons. Oh, this next one. This one made my decluttering journey so much longer than it needed to be. And yes, decluttering is kind of an ongoing process, but you get the bulk of it done, at the outset. I feel you do when you first start, if you're really going hardcore at it, that's when you're going to get rid of a lot of stuff. But if you don't do this thing, you're just going to drag it out much longer than you need to. That is not actually completing your decluttering journey. So deciding what you're going to declutter is really just the first step. After that, you then have to get the stuff out of your home and you have to find space for what's left. I don't know why I bother asking my family to be quiet, because I feel like when I ask them that, they just become 10 times more loud. They're all just running around upstairs moving furniture by the sounds of it. Anyway, yes, this was a mistake that I made for a long time. I would decide that I was going to declutter something. I would set it aside in a box, in a bag. There they go. And then basically just leave it sitting there. And then after a few months, I would have to go back over that stuff, or I would have to set aside time to do it, or it might end up getting kind of intermingled back in with regular rotation stuff. And I'd essentially end up doing the same job twice. Or like I said, the stuff that was left, I would just kind of leave it there in a pile. I wouldn't kind of try and organize it. I wouldn't try and give everything a specific home. I would just leave it where it was. And again, that just made the process so much more difficult, because I would have to go back over everything and try and decide then what I was going to do with this heap of stuff that was left over. So decluttering is not just about creating piles, it's about what you do with those piles afterwards. It's about seeing the job through to the end. You wouldn't kind of sit down and eat your dinner and then think that's done. You just leave all the dirty dishes there. No, you have to follow through. You have to clean up after yourself. I would have saved myself a lot of hassle and a heartache if I had just followed through from the very beginning. And sometimes I feel like, when we lived in our last house, I decluttered and redecorated my office a few months before we were due to move, and to some people that may have been a total waste of time, but it was actually very helpful, because when we moved into this house, I already had a good idea of how I wanted everything laid out. It was much easier for me to put things away, unpack things and put them away, because I already knew what kind of setup I wanted and I knew how things looked good. So don't just declutter, don't just create piles for yourself, but the stuff that you're getting rid of, actually get rid of it, move it out of your home. And then the stuff that you're keeping, make sure that that is organized or displayed or whatever, the way that you actually want it. And it doesn't have to be perfect right off the bat, but put some sort of system in place that you think will work, and then you can tweak it over time. But don't do what I did, just leave piles of stuff everywhere. I'll be honest, I am several years into my decluttering journey, and this is a mistake that I still sometimes make, but it's one that I've only recently started to put some effort into, and I am reaping the rewards now. It's great when I do a decluttering project and I'm not just left with a heap of stuff at the end of it, as I so often am, but I'm actually making a concerted effort to get that stuff out of my home. Previously, all I was really doing was just moving stuff around. Like I said, just creating heaps of stuff all over the place. Nope, learned that lesson, and decluttering is so much more satisfying now when the stuff actually goes immediately. You're not really saving yourself any space or getting the benefits, like the full benefits out of decluttering, if you just set aside the stuff that you're decluttering and you just leave it piling up somewhere in a corner. And my fifth one, though I do have a bonus regret at the end that I'll come back to. Can you call it a bonus? If it's a regret, I have an additional regret, like a secret sixth regret that I will come back to. But my fifth one is not giving myself enough time to complete a particular decluttering task. Sometimes I will start into a big decluttering project like in the middle of the afternoon, and then I feel so rushed, I feel so much stress, I feel under pressure to get it all done. And it's fine if it's kind of in an out of the way place that you can just come back to the next day, but usually it's in a space that you or your family are using on a daily basis. It might be the kitchen, it might be the bedroom, the living room, something like that. And by leaving it all out, you're kind of hindering your day-to-day routine. It's better if you can start these things as early in the day as possible. And if you feel that you don't have enough time, then like narrow the task down. You don't have to take on a huge decluttering task. In fact, I would always recommend breaking a decluttering task down, because even if you think you can do it, before you need to get dinner on the table or something, you may not. Sometimes these things take a lot longer than you anticipated. So give yourself plenty of time to complete the task. And if you have time left over, that's great. Maybe you could go on and tackle another small decluttering task, or you can just take some time off, relax, congratulate yourself. But definitely do not start, decluttering your kitchen an hour before it's dinner time. Do not start, taking clothes out of your closet and piling them all on the bed 2 or 3 hours before bedtime. I now break my decluttering tasks down pretty small, or I will do them in an out of the way place, somewhere that I know that if I need to stop, I can go away and do whatever needs to be done and come back to it. And it's not, I'm not going to be tripping over stuff in the meantime. It's away in a corner, it's down in the basement or something, somewhere where me and my family do not have to try and move around it. I can't tell you the number of times I have been completely stressed out because I've started into something too late in the day, or just have not given myself enough time. I've thought, oh, this will only take me about an hour. And then when it runs over, I'm under a huge amount of pressure to clean everything up. So break your tasks down and give yourself a lot of buffer time, or do it in a very out of the way place. Overestimate the time, the space, and the energy it will take to get the job done. And like I said, if you have some left over, that's a bonus. Speaking of bonuses, that additional regret that I mentioned is just not starting sooner. I wish that I had started this before I had accumulated so much stuff. And I know kind of hindsight is 2020, but if I had started decluttering much earlier, it would have been a much easier job. Having said that, it is never too late to start. And if you're in that situation where you think, I've left it too late, this is too overwhelming a task, I don't know where to start, I will never be able to get to the end of this, then I would highly recommend my free decluttering challenge, Clutter-Free in 5. It is 5-minute tasks that you can tackle over 30 days, and they don't even have to be consecutive days, just whenever you have 5 minutes to take on a decluttering job. It takes all the guesswork out of it. I tell you exactly what to declutter. I give you lots of tips and advice on it. There is a free workbook so that you can check things off as you go along and make some notes for yourself. I'm going to link that for you. Thousands of people have already done it and have seen a massive results from it. So if you're not sure where to start, or if it feels very overwhelming, Clutter-Free in 5 is the challenge for you. And until next time, go raibh míle maith go raibh. Agus feici mé sibh go luath. Slán. Oh, now you're quiet.